Alright, just finished recording the last review video you probably saw, and right into this one. Going to straight up and do the episode I mentioned, which is the Nightmare Rarity arc. In this very good story, really brings a bit more of Luna's character into the forefront and develops her a bit more. In this story arc, it starts off with the main six getting bad nightmares caused by an evil cloud monster of sorts, which they resolve. Let's have a sleepover. That'll probably help us get together, because some reason that made sense at the time, and plus, Pinky had an excuse to do a party. While at that sleepover, the cloud monsters from the dreams actually show up in the real life and kidnap Rarity, take her to the moon. At which point it's revealed that those are the Nyx, the inhabitants of the moon, that help influence Nightmare Moon and cause Luna's transformation. And Luna's going to team up with the rest of the main six to help get Rarity back. Spike tags along, bringing his heart-shaped ruby thing that from Secrets of My Excess that Rarity had made into a necklace in that episode, after she conned him out of the gem, because that was going to be a birthday present to himself, and instead, she stole it, basically. They get to, using some nice magical tricks, Luna leads the team to the moon, at which point the Nyx attack them again and trap them into some nightmares. Using Luna's help in dream travel, they fight their way out and eventually confront the leader of the Nyx, who is the newly revealed Nightmare Rarity, because she was corrupted at the time. Essentially, curb stomp battle after that, with the main six thrown in jail, Spike left in the lunar dust, Luna flying back to Equestria to get help to help combat a future invasion by the Nyx forces. Spike is able to collect himself and sneak into the Nyx's castle using like a algae sort of cover. Nightmare Rarity catches him, subjects him to a dream state where he and Rarity get to live together forever, but he sees through it after the abandonment of Rarity's friends and all that. So, obvious stuff that it's not really Rarity in charge. Then after breaking free, she has him locked up too, but by that time the rest of the cast have broken free thanks to Pinkie Pie and her prehensile hair, which then would show up a year or so later in the episode Bats, where she uses the front of her bangs to hold a flashlight and manipulate it, and eventually turn it into a drill at one point. So that's pretty impressive. While the Spike and the rest are breaking out of the prison, Nightmare Rarity leads the Nyx against Equestria. Luna and Celestia have raised the Equestrian army and even the locals to help fight back, which is really cool to see because there's a lot of cameos in that. The Cakes battling back to back with their with Pumpkin and Pound on their backs, so protecting their kids. There's a Keymark Crusader group up in that where they even brought in Bab Seed for her cameo appearance, and of course did a little joke at the end where something happens to Diamond Tiara, and which lets Laugh Bloom laugh at her. Lightning Dust cameoed, even though if you're going by how the characters look, it'd probably be like pre-season 2 Luna if you're really going to get technical on things. So, season 3 character, but also in one panel, Twilight had her princess hair curly already, so that'd mean a post-season 3 thing already. And you'd also sort of assume it's somewhat season 3 because after the Equestrian forces or after they defeat the first wave, Luna is trying to stand up and fight against the second wave, but she doesn't have her confidence. And then Trixie giving her speech from getting a second chance and being newly reformed in what was that one called? The one with the Alicorn amulet. So she newly reformed good Trixie was able to give the winning speech to cheer up Luna and help them fight against the Nightmare Rarity's forces. The rest of the main six show up. They're trying to elements of harmony against Nightmare Rarity, but they can't really do it because they need Rarity in the mix. And in the end, it was Spike busting out the ruby and showing off how much everyone really does love her, and more spirity shipping. Then that helps break Rarity free of the Nightmare's grip, and the Nyx are all rebelling at that time and becoming good again. So Rarity is free, Luna regains her confidence, Luna goes back to the moon with the Nyx to help make sure they're all okay and get their society back going. And it's a really fun chapter, and it sort of continues on in the next arc, the Zen and Art of Gazebo Repair, because it has Luna in full force, being all happy and ready to celebrate her recent victory. And also a tiny bit of follow-up on that story, too, in the sort of like a prequel to it in the Nightmare Moon Fiendship is Magic, where we actually get to see more of Nyx society and what they were like before Nightmare Moon caused them to be corrupted and did the entire Nightmare Rarity arc. Now, you're probably wondering, wait, that was one of the comic book synopses. Well, that's because do princesses dream of magical sheep? That is very similar in like story elements with the Nightmare Rarity comic, which is something I caught almost immediately because it's a story starts off with nightmares and with the main six, and involves Luna and fighting the nightmares. Even involves the entire town of Ponyville fighting the nightmares, just like in the comics. So there are a lot of similarities between the two. And if you caught when I was saying the episode title name, I almost said, do androids dream of electronic sheep, which is obviously the joke that the author the writer was going for. Good little reference there to some classic sci-fi. But the plot of do princesses dream of magic sheep? We didn't see any magic sheep this time. Sheep were all left back in Party Pooped. It starts off with smoky nightmare monster going after the main six. Them having a sleepover to help get to the bottom of things because they tell Luna it turns out to be something Luna knows about and helps them, and she helps them in their dreams instead of Rarity getting kidnapped at the time. But yeah, and of course even the first dream we see is Rarity having a nightmare, so we get a bit of a Rarity nightmare instead of a nightmare Rarity. Although, flashing back to season 3 with Sweetie Belle's Luna episode, that one had Nightmare Rarity going after Sweetie Belle, so I don't know how many other fans were saying it at the time, but it was like, hey, finally, hey, a Nightmare Rarity cameo. And, oh, we need more Nightmare Rarity. I mean, listen to that. I mean, I'm saying season 3 had a chance to make Nightmare Rarity jokes. This came out about a year, or not season 3, season 4 had the chance for the jokes, and this is about the first episode of this season came out about a year after the last season ended, so plenty of time for this comic book series to influence the writer, and hopefully, and was thinking, hopefully nobody noticed. I think many people noticed, yes. After the shared dream is when the Luna's cloud monster or nightmare monster or whatever, got out and started going after the rest of the town's, almost a Townsville. Jeez, this isn't Powerpuff Girls. Going after the rest of Ponyville, at which point they decide team up all of Ponyville to fight the cloud monster in the dream. So, there's another connection. A lot of fun stuff in the dreams. More Liver Bonbon, just friends moments. Well, one other. Derpy the size of a house and meowing like a kitten. That was pretty funny. Since it was a dream and doing battle, Spike got on the very, very macho, manly hero Spike that he imagined himself as in Dog and Pony Show in the first season, and even made a bit of a reference to that in Princess Spike as one of the very few things he was actually greedy about in that episode, despite everything Cadence was saying about him. Rainbow Dash and Applejack both did their Power Ponies forms, which is a very nice little throwback. Flutterbat made another appearance. Very good, because it was right about that time is when the what was that one? The Apples, the Bad Apples arc in the comics were announced, so that was right about the time of Return of Flutterbat happening in the comics. And if you saw my reviews on those, very, very good. A lot of good, like, vampire references. And probably the only time anyone actually enjoyed something named Twilight Sparkling. So, oh, yeah, you search the words Twilight Sparkle anywhere, you're going to get a lot more ponies and a lot more than horrible vampire fan fiction. And I'm talking about the books, not any actual fan fiction about those pieces of literature, if you choose to very bastardize the word literature. Yeah, and of course, since I have to meander back to the topic of the video again, one very important thing in the dream dream battle was Princess Big Macintosh. Oh, that was great, and even gave him a full Sailor Moon style transformation sequence. It was just hilarious. Very worth it. That would definitely be one of my highlights, just because it was just such a good reference to that. So maybe does that make him and Brayburn just cousins? Oh god, seeing how those two are shipped heavily in this fandom, I'm feeling really bad making that joke right now. Yeah, down to Ponyville unites the fight. Luna's cloud monster realizes it's related to Luna's guilt. You know, sort of like her inability to fight in the Nightmare Rarity arc. Twilight, instead of Trixie, basically the two being analogs and because of their rivalry, gives Luna a big forgiveness speech, and Luna is able to defeat the monster. So, yeah, some more elements between the two of them that make it really seem like Nightmare Rarity arc really influenced this episode. Yeah, I'm calling out all these similarities. I'm only doing the calling out. I'm not saying that it was a bad episode. It was a very good episode. I mean, very fun one. Different treatment of the characters and the world that they were living in. And I mean, sure, it was another Luna episode without Tibbles, which is an atrocity. Hopefully they make it up in the Halloween episode, because that's also going to be a Luna episode from what I've seen. And I really have to have if they don't have a little possum there in a costume, that's going to be, you know, bad thing happening. But yeah, a lot of good elements that were similar, if not straight out of the Nightmare Rarity arc. I mean, yeah, you can tell the same story a different way and have it turn out just as good. Geez, the Big Mac cameo. Oh, that was hilarious. What's his name? Filthy Rich also appeared in the Dream battle, and he was using superpowers similar to Iceman, but shooting money instead of controlling ice and drawing that out of the atmosphere for his ice powers. So that was a interesting little thing. That's the first one that gets brought up when I looked it up. It's like, yeah, it's similar to Iceman, how he was doing it, and you look at it and it's like, yeah, it is sort of like Bobby Drake. So yeah, there's a lot of the similarities to the comic. That's really it. I really wish it would have been a recreation of the comic instead if they're going that route, because Nightmare Rarity is my number 2 after Tibbles. So we get a Luna episode without her possum, and we get essentially Nightmare Rarity episode without Nightmare Rarity. You know, thanks a lot for that. But you know, different branches. I mean, I know for the Andy Price and Katie Cook cameos in Princess Spike, they had to get some permissions from IDW to get that. But you know, the way that they work together, I would think they'd be able to coordinate a bit more. And you know, if the story was written in a vacuum, which I'm calling BS on, they had the original comic was out for a couple years beforehand, so but you know, it was still a good episode. It was still really good, really fun. I enjoyed seeing all the similarities to the comics. To be honest, I mean, that's really one area of the show I wish would be brought up more is, some influence from the comics, and if they have to retell some of those stories, I'm okay with that, and as long as they're as true to like the source material. I mean, heck, I'd like to see the Shining and Cadence in high school comic retold. That'd be really fun. Or honestly, anything Return of Chrysalis or the Chrysalis Fiendship comic. And if we want to go even eviler than the Fiendship comic, we do have to do the Shining and Cadence in high school one, because there's a very overt Oingo Boingo reference, and man, did Cook and Price get a lot of heat for that when the comic came out. It was like, wow, we make a bad reference to a silly, stupid song, and holy cow, did they get some heat. Oh man, that comic was so. At one point, they just flipped the switch and it's like pure 80s mode. It was insane. Also, of course, they probably have to get through a lot of other pop culture references on that one too, because they're pretty obviously playing Dungeons and Dragons, which Hasbro can get away with because they own WotC. So, there's in the comic where Tibbles was introduced, they're even considered showing, brought up an owlbear joke and said, "Oh no, we might have trademark issues," and and then it got quickly pointed out by someone. Hasbro owns the company that owns owlbears, so God, honestly, Dungeons and Dragons stuff in ponies would be a fun little thing. I mean, especially, I know I'm bringing up the Shining and Cadence one, but because Shining was so nerdy in that, and plus it'd be more him, and he's just so pretty. That'd make it all worth it. Nerdy him, fan service, all the good stuff. But yeah. I feel fine talking about the comics in this video because we're essentially talking about a comic book influenced episode. So, so I think I have one more of these to have to record for before new episodes on this weekend, which is looking forward to it. That'll probably get a date delay. It's Rarity. Speaking of Rarity, here we get a Rarity episode right as we come back. I'm not sure if this one's the one with Coco Pommel again. I really hope it is because she's so adorable. But if it is, then yay. If not, no. Not this weekend, but a weekend from that one is the one with Coco. This one has Canterlot-based story arc, so if that means more Jet Set and Upper Cross, at least it's setting them up because they're going to be the villains. They're shown in the villain school in the next movie, so we know they're villains. I mean, they go to the bad school. They have to be the villains. Same thing can be said about Princess Cadence, because she apparently goes to that school too. Not going back to who is the real bad guy in Princess Spike, which it wasn't Spike. It was the pink one. And not Diamond Tiara. And not Pinkie Pie. Pinkie Pie is a good one. It was Cadence. Cadence was the villain in Princess Spike. Go watch that video. I think I make a case for that.